and I'm the board president of Raise Your Hand, and we are celebrating 10 years of Raise Your Hand. So cheers, guys. Bottoms up. I've served on this board for almost 8 years, and ever since our founder, Wendy Catton, found me wallowing in my tears at a board meeting, no idea what I was doing, and so frustrated that I had to learn firsthand. The Board of Ed didn't give a damn about the community meetings they were hosting. And after wallowing in my tears, Wendy Catton came over and said, "Hey, I'm with this group called Raise Your Hand, and we could really use your voice." And I said, "Well, I don't know what use that's going to be, but sure, here's my phone number." And 8 years later, I'm still on the board, still fighting, still screaming, sometimes crying in frustration, but otherwise never quitting, because we always fight for public education. I think we could use your voice, she said, and ever since I've been writing my statements. We have an awesome team. Sometimes I bring my Sharpies, my poster board. Sometimes I just send emails to friends. Sometimes I call some of you for donations. And sometimes I just sit in my bed and say, thank goodness someone else on Raise Your Hand is doing something, because I can't get anything done today. Sometimes we win big, like that one crazy idea we had for another selective enrollment high school, wasting another $75 million right down the street from another prestigious selective enrollment high school, because it's really a good idea to just keep throwing our few property dollars to the kids who do really good on a test. But we win big and we shut down Obama Prep. Sometimes we make slow and steady progress because we had thousands of parents frustrated with special ed, and we got hundreds of parents to write letters, and we had dozens of you to write down and shuttle down to Springfield, and we are actually making progress on special ed because we were working on it together. And sometimes we lose really big. So that crazy idea of throwing $2.6 billion to the richest neighborhoods for more private development, yeah, we lost the court case, but we never quit. So we're still going for the appeal. And that's the point. Even when we win big. Sometimes we win small, and sometimes we lose big, but we never quit. And when we can't do it by ourselves, we just grab our friends or make someone else help us do the work so it can still get done. For those of you who've been with us for a while, remember those crazy ideas that Raise Your Hand had on those first flyers? Something about every child deserves an education, a well-resourced education, regardless if they live in all corners of the city. That'll never happen. Well, we're seeing progress. We're not there yet, but again, we're not going to quit. And remember when they called us those radical parents when we shut down committee hearings because we kept saying we need more revenue for education, or we need progressive tax revenue? That'll never happen. Well, we're actually pretty close, but we still need a couple more phone calls. So we're still going to be sending those emails out to make sure that we get every single dime that our kids deserve. What we don't do is we're not going to quit. But this year, it's been like no other. Just stop and take a drink for that. Here's my cup. So this year, we aren't planning big rallies. We're not going to shut down City Hall. We're not going to be screaming at committee hearings. We're not going to be parading through the streets with our banners. We're not flooding an elected official's office with mad parents packed into their little community room trying to fight for some more dollars for our kids' education. But we're not going to quit. What we are still doing is we're making phone calls, we're having virtual trainings, we're sending emails, we're growing our listserv, and hopefully we're growing our donor base, because we've got a lot of work to do, and we're not going to quit. So even if all you can do is like us on Facebook, every single one of those likes keeps sharing our message. If all you can do is retweet our messages, more people can actually start learning a little bit more about raise your hand. Maybe that last phone call that you made to that elected official is the one that actually filled up the voicemail, and their staff wants to send a report that all those raise your hand parents filled up the voicemail last night, and you could have been the last one on that list. Every single little bit helps, even if it's just a donation of $1 a day, $1 a week. Every single one gets us closer to our goal. No matter how small, we're going to keep fighting for public education because we're never going to quit. Cheers to you, Wendy. That turns it over to you.
Thank you, Brenda. Hi, everyone. I am Wendy Catton. It is so great to be here with you, although not as good as it would be to see you in person, of course. I hope you are all doing okay enough during this utterly bizarre and often stressful time and coping with remote learning as best as possible. And on that note, thank you for the delicious recipe. I made my remote learning cocktail, and I hope you guys do too, because it's really good. So yeah, I am so happy to be able to say welcome to the Raise Your Glass 10-year celebration. It brings back so many memories of the hard work done by many of you, so many others over the years to advocate for a dignified public school experience for your children and really for all children. And that is what this group has been about. You know, that first year, none of us who started this group had any idea what we were doing. I mean, really clueless and had no training. We joined together over threats of billion-dollar budget cuts from the state, class sizes of 37, cuts to social workers, counselors, nurses that barely existed already, and so much more. And parents and caregivers and concerned citizens mobilized and got on the bus to Springfield, visited their reps in district, delivered thousands of letters to Mayor Daley, through chanting through the halls of City Hall, demanding the first ever TIF surplus. And later, you know, we took on the onslaught of racist standardized testing policies, data privacy schemes like In Bloom, the ever so horrific secret overhaul of special education, which led to the inquiry and takeover from the state. And Raise Your Hand has done so much more over the years. Like I said at the start, we were really clueless, but motivated. And now, 10 years later, it's so great to see how this organization has grown into a well-oiled machine, more mature, disciplined, and equipped with a trove of credible resources and information on CPS policies, with people there with real institutional knowledge and historical perspective. And just a continuous group of parents who will demand, no matter how much of an uphill battle, that the schools are resources, have resources so that they can be responsive to the full needs of children in Chicago. So I toast all of the parents who continue hard work. Please donate to Raise Your Hand. Go to the auction site. It's really, right now, it's more important than ever. I know everybody always says that, but given what we're going through right now with this pandemic, the revenue losses, the inequities exacerbated by remote learning, the potential further commercialization around ed tech, through remote learning, and the drastic, desperate need for better social, emotional, and health support that children, all children, no matter what zip code, need and deserve to thrive. So please give. And on that positive note, I'll hand it over to Janan, who's the executive director. And I want to thank you all for having me here. It's really good to be part of this. Thank you.
Yay!
Yay. Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy. Good evening, y'all. Again, my name is John Ann, and I'm the director here at Raise Your Hand for a little bit over a year now. Although I think we can all agree this year feels a little bit longer than usual. I just want to take a moment and thank you again, Wendy. Over this past year, I've talked to parents and organization leaders from across the city who all remember the first time they met you. They remember your vigor and your passion. They remember how you made them feel powerful. Thank you for all you've done at Raise Your Hand. I stand on the shoulder of a giant. I want to thank all of you here and supporting us as we enter our 10th year. I know virtual fundraisers has its pluses, right? I'm not wearing a belt, wearing fuzzy socks. They're all great, but I'll be even happier to toast y'all in person at Lagunitas next year. Thank you to our volunteer fundraisers, to our host committee, to our sponsors, and anyone who made a contribution to Raise Your Hand and has made it the organization it is today. For those who have been with Raise Your Hand for close to a decade, thank you for believing that this work goes beyond your child or school, but that all children deserve what they need to succeed. I also want to thank all the new folks who have just joined this past year. I can't wait to continue to build with you. But as other folks have said, it's been a hell of a year. And if you remember the last time we did this, we were at the beginning of a teacher strike. And it's hard to kind of capture what this year has been like. And I'm sure y'all are ready to never use the words unprecedented or new reality again. What has particularly struck me is how COVID has stripped naked this country's love for these false narratives. Angelique Powers of the Field Foundation calls COVID-19 a black light that shows that all of the pre-existing inequities that were palatable to people in power before the pandemic. From access to healthcare, to the looting of our education system, to the digital divide, it's impossible to hide who our system prioritizes, cares for, and protects. We saw failures of leadership at every level. Many folks in positions of power froze with no playbook and worked to maintain a status quo that disproportionately continues to hurt Black and brown folks. Organizers and organizations like Raise Your Hand are familiar with running to walls when we work with institutions like CPS, but it's astonishing to continue to see that throughout the pandemic. And we at Raise Your Hand struggled to kind of respond as well. Between our board and our staff, many of us had not worked a full year together, but we trusted our values to be our North Star and to guide our work. We've always believed that systems that were not built for the people are not going to be the ones that save us, especially during a pandemic. We know that we're the only ones who can create a world that works for all of us. We centered connection and interdependence during physical isolation, knowing that not one person or group knows the way, but the collective will guide us forward. As Mariam Kaba, a prison abolitionist and freedom fighter, calls it, we're practicing hope as a discipline. Throughout this pandemic, parents and caregivers continue to be leaders of their own transformation. In the first 6 months, over 700 LSC members gathered from across the city in weekly meetings to strategize how to respond to the equity gaps that we are seeing. They brought district leaders to their table to answer how they're going to address those needs. Despite the increased stress and time constraints on parents, we saw even more parents show up to our LSC election programs, get appointed to LSCs, some of you all here today, and make sure their voices are heard at their schools. In the first 6 months, over 800 special ed parents and advocates also met weekly to share best practices and find ways to improve remote learning at home, at school, and find ways to improve it at the district level to get the support that our diverse learners needs. When CPS didn't step up to listen to parents, over 1,300 parents representing half of CPS schools filled out our remote learning survey and wrote over 200 pages of ways we can improve remote learning and get ready for hybrid learning. When the uprising happened, parents stepped up and were clear in what they wanted. Counselors, not cops. Parents were accomplices to the youth-led Police Free Schools Coalition to remove police from schools. They crafted narratives, produced reports, held teach-ins, and put their bodies on the line in the fight to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline. Brick by brick, parents are creating a district that works for every student. And what I love most about working with those who get involved with us is this deep belief that our freedoms are intertwined, that their child's success is just as important as another child's success. This pandemic has set the stage to widen inequities. However, I'm filled by the strength of our parents and our caregivers. To listen and to build with y'all during this past year has been some of the richest lessons of my life. As an organization that was born out of the Great Recession, we recognize the challenges that we'll face in the next 10 years. But we know parents will be there to stand up and fight back. When there are budget cuts, parents will stand up and fight back. When they threaten to close down schools, parents will step up and stand up and fight back. When they continue to attack SPED and EL services, parents will stand up and fight back. And when they offer false choices that continue to privatize our community, parents will stand up and fight back. Raise your hand, folks, understand their agency to build the world that works for all of us, and our collective actions in this current moment will echo across the next decade. Please, if you have a drink, hope you do, please raise your glass. Here's to our parents and caregivers for their fight this past year, their unwavering belief in an education system that works for everyone. Cheers. Now, I'd like to welcome Nicole Abreu, a parent and board member.
Hey, thank you for that introduction. Can you hear me okay? Good, okay. Hopefully I can read through this after all those toasts. Buenas noches, everyone. Thank you for coming out after such a long day of work and remote learning. I'm Nicole Abreu, and I joined the Raise Your Hand board just this summer in August. So I'm a total newbie. I've got 3 kiddos in CPS in kinder, second, and third, so pretty little still. Just a little bit about me outside of my sometimes all-consuming identity as a proud mom. I am a first-generation Dominicana, and my parents immigrated here after the fall of Trujillo. And I went through public schools K-12, first in Queens, New York, and then in Miami, Florida, and then went on to the University of Chicago. Just a little bit about me, about what informs my philosophy and thoughts on public education. Pretty much everything about my beliefs about education is shaped by my experience going through the public school system as a child of immigrants. Though my first language was Spanish, my parents were told by my teachers if they wanted me to have any kind of chance to succeed, I needed to stop speaking Spanish at home to focus on improving my English. Hello, 80s in the USA. I dutifully learned to read and write in Spanish and aiming in English, and quickly forgot my home language. Something that happened by such degrees that my parents didn't even seem to notice until one day I could see them cringing at my grammar and pronunciation. And eventually my family moved down to Miami. The whiplash I felt from how different these two cities and school systems were was really intense. Suddenly my parents could communicate easily with all my teachers, not so great for me. And our totally 80s assimilated white American names made us stick out like sore thumbs. And I found myself struggling for the first time in school because my school day was half in Spanish. We went to a dual language program. But you know, kids, as we all know, are resilient, and I started to see a lot of upsides of going to school in Miami, where I was part of, I guess, the majority. Most of my teachers were Latino or Black. Spanish was everywhere, and even the most of the non-Latino people I knew spoke it at least conversationally. Eventually, I relearned it and regained my home language as well. And when I didn't pass the standardized IQ test for gifted, my teachers recommended me for the program in middle school anyway, based on my school performance. Something that I've yet to see since my time in Miami Public Schools. My local public high school had more arts, vocational programs, AP classes, than I could hope to cram into 4 years. And this is when I started seeing that not everyone had equal access to these kind of opportunities. And this is sort of the early spark to what my abuelo affectionately dubbed my Robin Hood tendencies. In the end, much to my parents' chagrin, fellow first gens, you know what I'm talking about, I decided becoming a teacher would best marry my skills and desire to work towards social justice. So that's sort of all the background to what I do. Obviously, I'm not a Chicago native. I studied here, but everyone knows that attending the University of Chicago does not count towards your Chicago cred. I stayed on to complete my master's from the Urban Teacher Education Program and then headed out west for a few years where I taught in predominantly recently immigrated communities in Seattle and dual language programs in San Francisco. And I headed back to Chicago in 2012 after our first child was born with a rare neurological condition. Once we realized the complexity of her needs, we knew we had to get back to family, and we settled on Chicago, where most of my husband's family lives. So in 2016, my daughter had a surgery to disconnect the entire left hemisphere of her brain. And that happened to coincide with me embarking on the process of navigating CPS's special education system. So, I mean, I had so many advantages and resources, plus my years of experience being a public school teacher in large public school systems, but I was lost. I had so much knowledge, but I quickly realized what I didn't know. I had zero knowledge about the systems, the politics, the history of the city of Chicago that made CPS this seemingly insurmountable labyrinth when it came to special education. And I happened to stumble upon, during my daughter's kindergarten year, the Raise Your Hand Special Education Facebook group. And suddenly we weren't alone anymore. I'll try not to get emotional. More than that, we learned that no, we were not crazy. The system was, yes, actually this messed up. And through the Raise Your Hand newsletters and Facebook groups, I learned about all the meetings and the workshops and the resources. I couldn't seem to find info on anywhere that my school wasn't connecting me to. And I connected with so many other parents who were fiercely advocating for their kids too. You know, I had 2 other kids in the span of this time, so I was short on time and energy. I appreciated all the step-by-step advice and the templates for everything, requesting evals, opting out of standardized testing, how to figure out how to attend the Board of Ed meetings and submit commentary and try to sign up to speak. Woo, sorry about that. I keep accidentally doing that. And eventually I learned about local school councils and ran for a spot at my kid's school. And I had a place to turn with Raise Your Hand when I realized our LSC was completely dysfunctional. The LSC trainings and sessions have been one of the more essential things for me, even more so in these weird remote times. And I'm nowhere done learning about CPS or Chicago, not even close. But I'm so grateful for Raise Your Hand and everyone I've met in my 4 years as a CPS parent through Raise Your Hand for helping me continue my education on that. As a Raise Your Hand board member, I'm hoping to do my part in any way I can, but especially I'm hoping to expand access to all these Raise Your Hand resources that were so helpful to me and opportunities to communities we may not be effectively reaching quite yet, particularly Spanish-speaking parents of diverse learners. So that's sort of my why and spiel, and thank you. And it's my pleasure to introduce David Tolen, a fellow CPS parent and Raise Your Hand board member. Oh, sorry, I didn't toast. Toast too.
Cheers again, everybody. Thank you, Nicole. It's a lovely story. Welcome to our board of Raise Your Hand. I'm fairly new as well. I was recruited by Joanne at the beginning of this year, I believe. Sometime at the beginning or at the end of the last year, I think I just noticed that since I'm getting older, I'm just losing track of time. And I don't know if that's a normal thing, but it's happening to me. Well, anyway, I would like to talk with you, to share with you about 3 things. 3 things that related to Raise Your Hand in the city of Chicago. The first thing is I joined the LSC Newfield School up here in North Chicago, Rogers Park, and the reason I joined the school is because I have a little boy, and I didn't know anything about public education in the United States, not only in Chicago but in the United States. So I decided, like, well, if I'm gonna send my boy to CPS school, I just need to learn how the system operates. What do I have to do, or what things I can do to make the life of my child better? No, because that's who I am. No, I care for my son. I will do everything for him, even joining an LSC. Well, long story short, I didn't know anything. Well, soon after I joined the LSC, I came across with Raise Your Hand. Almost by accident or coincidentally, because when I was in the LSC, I realized that most of the undocumented parents are unable to participate in the LSC. So that was a very shocking news to me, because I mean, I'm part of the Latino community. I know how many undocumented parents live in Chicago. It's something around 180,000 people undocumented living in Chicago, and every single family has a child in the CPS. And it was just sad to me that none of those parents were able to participate on making decisions regarding the education of their children. So that was catastrophic, that was sad, that was appalling, that was everything to me. So I decided to start a fight about how to let undocumented parents to participate in the school. Well, I don't know. I feel most of my life I've been so lucky that I came across with a Raise Your Hand. And Raise Your Hand became one of the most powerful allies that we had as a non-documented parents. Raise Your Hand was the most powerful ally that we got to organize parents and to change the law in Springfield. You hear that? Raise Your Hand help us to change the law in Springfield. Joanne and I did so many trips to Springfield. I think that was a blessing for me because Joanne is a very interesting person. You need to spend like 2 or 3 hours driving with him in a train so you can start knowing him from deep inside his heart. And I have that privilege, or I have that blessing. So that's the first point that I wanted to address with you. The second thing is the reason that why I joined the LSC. The reason that I joined an LSC is because I believe in public education. I believe that public education is the greatest equalizer in society. And if we want to bring our society to a level where everybody sees another people as an equal person, we need to strengthen our public education in the United States, but specifically in Chicago. We need to work harder on that. We need to create a system that helps our children to see everybody else as an equal, regardless of color, regardless of gender, regardless of economical status, regardless of everything. But we need to work harder on that. And Raise Your Hand is doing that. Raise Your Hand is helping to organize parents so we can achieve that goal. We might see the results of our work. We might not. This fight might take longer than ourselves, than our life, but at least we are putting the seeds on the minds and in the hearts of our children so they can keep going with the fight in case we didn't finish it. And for that, I'm very grateful to Raise Your Hand. And one last thing that I would like to share with you, and this is very important for me because as a person, I believe that I deserve certain rights, and not just rights for me, but rights for everybody. And one of those rights is the right to have a proper or a way to access a good health programs. Where I'm going with this is as an organization, Raise Your Hands care about their staff. And we want to provide our staff health insurance. We want them to have access to a good, healthy programs because that is what we want. We have, however, we have a little bit of inconvenience. We don't have the resources to do that. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because when I got sick, I go to the doctor because my wife provides health insurance for me. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about seeing a dentist or having a surgery or anything because thanks to her, I have access to health insurance. But I would like everybody working for Raise Your Hand to have the same right that, or the same privilege, or the same blessing that I have. We won't be able to do it just by ourselves. And tonight, I want to take this moment to ask you, to ask a little bit more for your help. Tonight, we are asking people to dig deep in their pockets, bring out the checkbooks, bring out your wallet, bring out your credit card. I mean, if that's possible for you. And yes, give a little bit more for us. So I'm gonna be more daring and ask. And in our attendance tonight, is there anybody there sitting on the comfort of the house willing to donate $1,000? I know some of you guys are thinking about your checks right now. So I'm gonna give you like 15 seconds and see if we can have someone who tonight can give us $1,000. I'm gonna check the chat. Maybe in the chat, someone is already committing. Whoa! You guys heard that? It was a beep. Someone already gave us $1,000. Thank you so much. I'm not able to see who did it, but whoever did it, thank you very much. That was impressive. Whoa, we have several people. Thank you guys. Thank you for those $1,000. Well, let's say that you guys cannot don't have $1,000 right now, but you can afford $500. Is there? It's out there more people who can give us $500. You don't have to give it like right now in one lump payment. You can give us $500 in monthly payments. However, whatever is easier for you. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't hear the bell ringing, but there are some people are donating 500,000. I mean, yeah, $500. Thank you. Is there anybody out there who can give us 250? Can we get 250 from any of you? Yay! Someone is giving 250. Thank you. Wow, thank you. One more. Yeah, bravo. Bravo, bravo. Whoa. Thank you. I kind of want to read the names, but now I'm afraid I'm gonna miss somebody, and they're gonna get mad and they're gonna withdraw.
No, these are very committed people. They're not going to withdraw. They're all awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, can we keep moving? I'm just gonna give the opportunity to those who are skipping the 250, and let's go to what $100. $100. Do we? I think I can afford $100. I'm gonna start with myself. Well. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Brenda's making me want to donate another 100 to get that dinner.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, Eric. Great, great. Thank you, Roberta. I kind of want to keep waiting for because those hundreds are popping, popping, popping. That is great. Thank you, Eiko. Thank you very much. Well, we have just two more steps to go. Let's go for $50. Is somebody there for $50? Great, thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you. Josh. Thank you, Chris. Whoa! I feel like I'm in the church already. Bells are, don't stop. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let me finish with this. You probably might not have $50, or probably it's not a good time for you to give $50 or $1,000, but you still want to help. And I know this happens on every single house when they have the chain and those jars. If you want to commit that jar to raise your hand, I think parents of Chicago will be grateful for you. And oh, well, someone is 20 a month. Well, just keep thinking about raise your hand, folks. We won't be able to survive without your support. I do really appreciate the work that Joanne and the staff are doing. I mean, it's incredible. I don't know what I would have done in the place. I probably had stepping down. But Joanne is someone who moved forward, regardless of any bad thing happening. And I'm very appreciative about that, and to the staff. Um, and just well, keep raise your hand in mind, and anything that you can do for us, it will be highly appreciated. With this being said, I'm gonna pass it to Joanne, and for closing remarks, or something that he has to say.
Thank you.
Okay, nice talking to you, everybody.
Yeah. So you're gonna do this forever. That's awesome. Thank you for that, making this so fun. Thank you for bringing the energy. I'm just gonna, thank you guys so much for coming. I just want to say just like another minute just to share some of the rest of our programming. I know we got to put the kids to bed. So just real quick, our online auction is live. I think I've already started like a bidding war with someone over some sauces. So if you can get so please check that out. If you didn't get the pleasure to try our signature drink, the remote learning, it's made by a CPS parent. Please give it a shot. The instructions are also found in the landing page that you got where you got the Zoom link. And we know that there isn't a time that works for everyone. And one of our goals for this fundraiser was to sprinkle in joy where we could, right? So we have 4 programs over the next 2 weeks that we welcome to participate, we welcome you and your family to participate in when it makes sense. So this Thursday at 6:30, we'll have Maggie Barron, Quizmaster Extraordinaire, will be hosting education trivia. Over the weekend, we'll be releasing our virtual art gallery of pieces that reimagine public education. So if you or you know a student who would be willing to submit a piece, please let us know. The link will be in the chat. On Tuesday at 6:30, we'll be showing the 63 boycott documentary on our Facebook page. And we'll end our fundraiser on Friday, next Friday at 6:30 with You Can't Measure This on a Standardized Test talent show. Again, if you know of a student who would be willing to submit, please let us know. The link isn't going to be in the chat. And finally, we're about 75% of the way towards our goal. Thank you so much for your continued giving and sharing our fundraiser with your networks. So on behalf of Raise Your Hand, thank you so much. Have a good rest of the evening, y'all.
Great job, thanks.
Yay!
Yay.
Well, I want to hear some music.